Hi all, Violet here, second generation homeschooling mom of 3. I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a toddler. Today I wanted to share with you a unit study that I put together for my 6-year-old. So let's get into it. So my son has been listening to this podcast, Diggerasaurs, that is about a digger that gets struck by lightning and turned into a dinosaur digger hybrid kind of thing. And then each episode of the podcast is about a specific kind of dinosaur. They talk about paleontology, different aspects of the dinosaur, things like that. So that podcast has really sparked my son's interest in dinosaurs. So he wanted to check out a bunch of books that he could draw the dinosaurs that he's been learning about in the podcast. So this first book I have, the new Dinosaur Encyclopedia, he really liked this book. It's pretty comprehensive. It has most, if not all, of the dinosaurs that he heard about in the podcast. The amount of information was good for him. He liked the pictures okay. A lot of them are computer generated, and so he liked that they're clear, but he was a little bit frustrated trying to copy them with his own drawings. But in general, he really liked this encyclopedia. This next book, Dinosaurium, is part of the Welcome to the Museum series. All of the books in this series are illustrated in a similar style. I think they're all beautiful. And my son really liked the style of these drawings. He found it very easy to copy them in his own drawings. But he was irritated with how the actual information is set up like a museum exhibit. I think it's cool, but he found it difficult to figure out where to look to read the information that he was looking for. But this book is really gorgeous. It is a bit oversized, but the amount of information it has, the way it's presented, I really like these books. Okay, the next book is part of the DK Find Out series. In general, my son likes these books. He did not care for this one particularly just because he's really interested in learning about specific kinds of dinosaurs, and this one is so short that it didn't really add anything that those other encyclopedias didn't already have, but kind of in a more condensed format because this is geared towards slightly younger kids. This next book I have to show you is also a DK book, Dinosaurs and Other Prehistoric Life. This one my son also didn't love a ton, mostly because most of the entries are set up like this, where they have the fossil or whatever remains of the dinosaur, and then a kind of cartoonish picture. And so he found that, since he was mostly trying to get an idea of what these dinosaurs he was learning about in the podcast looked like, he didn't find this very helpful. Yeah, and then the amount of information, I think I've mentioned this before when I've reviewed other books in this series, the amount of information in here is not a lot. So this would be good to read aloud like a bedtime story if your child was interested in that, but for the purposes of like learning more about these dinosaurs that he's already heard about in the podcast, this book didn't really add anything for him. So that's it for the encyclopedia books. The next set of books I have for you are more nonfiction books, but a little bit more specific topics. This book is part of the Big Questions Answered series. Is this the biggest dinosaur ever? It's about one of the Titanosaur dinosaurs, and so it talks about paleontology, discovering this dinosaur, how they figured out that it was the biggest dinosaur ever. So my son really liked that book, and so we also checked out this book from the same series, Are Birds Modern Day Dinosaurs? And so this one focuses more on ornithology and where birds come from. But that was interesting. My kids both already knew that dinosaurs eventually evolved into birds. This next book is called Book of Dinosaurs. I really liked this book. So the way it's set up is each spread has guess who had the toughest whatever. So for this one, it's guess who had the toughest armor, and it has clues about the dinosaur and a picture of their skeleton. And then if you flip the page, it tells you the answer, more information about the dinosaur. And then it has this picture of the dinosaur with, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera, but it has a raised skeleton superimposed on this picture of the dinosaur. So this book was really cool. My kids always like these kind of riddle or guessing books. So yeah, this one was a hit. This next book, Dinosaur Discoveries by Gail Gibbons, just went over, here's a map of the Dinosaur Discoveries, went over some of the major dinosaur discoveries and major kinds of dinosaurs. This was in a very digestible format that was easy to read at bedtime, so we did read a good portion of this to my son. He didn't necessarily care for the illustration style, but he really liked listening to it for a bedtime story. This book is called LifeSize Dinosaurs. There's a bunch of these life-size books. I think these are all really cool. My kids like them too. So each spread is a life-size part of a dinosaur, and then it tells you more about the dinosaur. So that was a hit. This next book is called Dinosaur Feathers. This is just a cute little rhyming book that goes over different kinds of dinosaurs, and then it talks about how they eventually evolved into birds. So that was fun. Oh, this next book my son really liked. It's called I Am Not a Dinosaur. He gets irritated sometimes when things that are not dinosaurs but are also prehistoric get lumped in with dinosaurs. So he really appreciated this book. And it just goes through little rhymes about each creature, and then it ends with I'm not a dinosaur, I'm whatever they are. So this one was fun as well. This next book is called Prehistoric Pets. This is a pop-up book. I think I might have shown this in one of my library haul videos or something. So each page or each section has the prehistoric animal that's the ancestor of whatever the modern day pet is. So this was kind of cool too. This next book is called The Iguanodon Horn, and it's all about how scientists find dinosaurs, put them together, how they decide what the right way the bones go together, and it's all about the iguanodon. So you're following the iguanodon skeleton through the whole thing, how they decide what it looks like, how the artists come up with drawings, things like that. So we've read books before, I think from the Let's Read and Find Out series, like what are fossils, things like that. So this is kind of in a similar vein, but a lot more in-depth and specifically following iguanodon. So that was cool. This next book we've checked out a lot. We really like this book. I probably should just add it to our list of things to buy eventually, but this is Dinosaur Lady, The Daring Discoveries of Mary Anning, the First Paleontologist. So it goes through her life. It talks about her fossil discoveries, the first dinosaur she found, how she was not allowed to be part of the Geological Society, but now we remember her for all of her really important contributions. So I really like that book. This next book is about the dinosaur scientist Karen Chin, and it's called The Clues Are in the Poo. So my kids thought this one was funny, but it's all about the discoveries she made from studying fossilized poop. So yeah, that was cool. And then it has pictures of her at the end and a little bit more about her life. This next book is called The Bone Wars. It's about these two paleontologists who started out as friends, but then one of them assembled a skeleton wrong and the other one publicly corrected him, and they feuded ever since. And the book ends with them dying sad and lonely and broke, and it's kind of a interesting look at how we uncovered a lot of fossils in the U.S. This took place in the U.S., but also a little bit of a moral lesson. Like if they had managed to collaborate and not have been so proud of their own work, they might have still been friends. This next book is called When Sue Found Sue, and it's about Sue Hendrickson discovering a T-Rex skeleton. So that one was fun too. Right, so those are kind of all of the more nonfiction type picture books I have. The next stack of books is really more things that we checked out that are about dinosaurs but are mostly just for fun. This first book is Lego How to Build Everything. It has a whole section on dinosaurs in here. So my son looked at it, and we didn't have a lot of the specific pieces you needed for these specific dinosaurs, but he was inspired by their different dinosaur builds and came up with a bunch of his own both real and imaginary dinosaurs that he put together out of Lego. So that was really fun. This next book is called Artworks Drawing Dinosaurs and Other Prehistoric Animals. This is just something we picked up off the shelf at the library because it looked very doable for all of my kids. So he looked at this a little bit, but he prefers to draw things kind of his own way. So I don't know that he followed the instructions at all. This next book is called Where's the Dinosaur? A Rexcellent Roarsome Search Book. So this is just a search and find where you're looking for different animals on each page, and they're all around the edge with little facts about them. This book, my son was bothered when they included stuff that was not dinosaurs because the title is Where's the Dinosaur? So some of the search and finds, you're searching for things that are not, technically speaking, dinosaurs. This next book is a wordless picture book. I think wordless picture books are really great to develop like storytelling skills and inference clues from pictures, things like that. It's called Time Flies, and it's a bird, which we'd already learned are the modern descendants of dinosaurs, flying through skeletons at the museum and imagining what they looked like in the past. So this was a fun one as well. My kids always like wordless books. This next book is called How Do Dinosaurs Stay Safe? There's a whole series of these How Do Dinosaurs Do Whatever books, but they're just little rhyming books, and the toddler or preschooler kind of age kid in the story is depicted as a dinosaur, and then the dinosaur is labeled here. So my kids appreciate knowing exactly what kind of dinosaur is depicted. But this one's all about safety. There are a bunch of them. You can see them all here. My kids really like these books. They're fun. This next one is called There's a Dinosaur on the 13th Floor. This again is just kind of a fun, silly book. Mr. Snore really wants to get to sleep, but every room he goes into, there's a big problem until finally he falls asleep on the dinosaur's pillow and the dinosaur has to call and complain. So that was just a cute one. This next book is from the Tiny TRex series. My kids really like this series. My son especially likes the Valentine's Day Tiny TRex book, but these are just cute little books about T-Rex and his friend Pointy the Stegosaurus. There's a bunch of these as well. This next book is called Stomp Soar Dino Roar. It bothered both of my kids that it wasn't Stomp Roar Dinosaur. They felt like that would have made a lot more sense. But this is about a little Triceratops who wanders around listening to all the noises in the jungle until she discovers her own noise. So, and then it has a little bit of facts about the different dinosaurs in the back. So that was a fun one. These last two books are kind of related to the Diggerasaurs theme of mixing construction vehicles and dinosaurs. This Diggerasaurs one, there's several books in this series, but it's just different construction vehicles labeled as if they were dinosaurs, so they're not real dinosaurs. They're like silly construction vehicle names, if that makes sense, like Breakerasaurus for this breaking thing. I don't know that much about construction vehicles, but I know that these are not their real names. So this series is fun. And then my son also really likes this one, Dino Trucks, which is kind of the same idea. So Craniosaurus, Digosaurus, things like that. So yeah, those are all the books that we have read for our dinosaur unit. I hope you found this helpful. I will link everything in the description box below. I am a bookshop affiliate, so if you click on a link and make a purchase, I do receive a small commission. Thank you for watching.